Hey guys, it's Deborah. So today I just wanted to do a casual walk and talk with you guys. I had some things that were on my mind lately, and I think it'll be a blessing to share them. I have other videos coming up that are more research based and are going to be more in depth with study, and I'm trying to work on those. But for now, this is just casual. So there's two topics I wanted to talk about. The first topic I wanted to talk about is God's perfect will and his permissive will. And then we'll get into the second topic after. But the first topic, I just wanted to give my thoughts on it. It's been on my mind a lot lately, and it's been kind of affecting my life. And it's not a biblical fact. There's nothing in the Bible that says he has a permissive will. It does talk about God's will. It talks about God's omnipotence, that he knows everything. I believe it's kind of like you chose it, he knows it. So there's many choices you make. But then there's like what I believe is his perfect will. And it talks about, I'm sorry, I don't have my verses on me just because I'm just doing this just on the fly. But it talks about the righteous man's steps are ordered by God. They're ordered. And there's another verse that says, a man thinketh in his heart what he would do. I'm paraphrasing, I'm sorry, but God directs his steps. Something to that effect. So that being said, there's obviously a part of life where you can kind of do your own thing and we have free will. And then there's another part of life where God is like, no, this is just how it has to be. And that's with regards to end times too. Some prophecies are just going to come true and happen, and they're just going to happen. You know, anything that God says will not come back void, any of his words. So it will happen. But there's other parts to it that maybe there can be persuasiveness with regards to, prayer. Like if when Nineveh was told to repent, they prayed and they changed their future for a time being. And that changed the direction of God's wrath and fury. But he knew it was going to happen that way. So again, he knows it, but it can change depending. But there's ultimate goals that God has, obviously fulfillment of prophecy, bringing the Jews to have their full recompense for their 70 weeks, as in Daniel. So having them fulfill those weeks to be able to then to recompense for their sins, to be able to be reconciled with God. So there's things like that have to happen. But in our personal lives, I was just thinking about the permissive will of God as opposed to the perfect will of God and how it really affects our life. I've been thinking about marriage a lot lately. Marriage has been brought into my attention, and I feel like God is talking to me about marriage a lot lately. And I've been married for 20 years. I got married really, really young, right out of school. And I've been watching this young, I don't say girl, she's in her 30s, young woman's videos. And she just has a lot of wisdom for somebody in her like mid 30s. And I posted on the community post. You can check it out if you want. It's directed at women, but I'm telling you, it's for everybody. It's about thankfulness to God. And she just talks about the home and just how to be thankful for just the basic needs of life and just so many things. Anyway, it's for women or men, but she focuses on women for her ministry, but I'm just talking to whoever. I've just been thinking a lot about servitude, obedience, and love. And it's a choice. And God has really been working with me he's called me to be a stay-at-home mom and wife for all these years. I tried working many times. I've worked in the beginning when I got married, and very soon, like right after I had kids, like I worked for 5 years because we were married for 5 years before we had kids. And then I stopped, like I kept working, but in Canada, you get 1 year off every time you have a baby, like paid. So I kept having babies, taking a year off, not knowing what to do because I started realizing, hey, I don't want to send these kids to daycare. So that's just me, and I think it's a good thing. I'm just talking from my point of view, but he called me to that anyway. So I fought it a lot of years. Like I wanted it, but I knew financially I'm not going to have my goals. Like I don't need a lot of fancy things, but I live in one of the most expensive cities in the world, and I am thinking like, this is not going to work. So we had to go through a lot for me to finally be at this place. And my husband's career had to keep expanding and getting more intense and growing, and more. It's taken a really long time for it to be in a place where it's comfortable for me, even slightly comfortable for me to not work. But in all of that, God wanted me to be grateful and thankful. He wanted me to serve my husband when I didn't feel like I wanted to. He wanted me to be obedient and humble and submissive and respectful and all these things. And he's been showing me this a lot lately. And I think it's related to how much he values our betrothment to Christ and our soon wedding and marriage. Like, I can see the parallels in that. I feel like he's showing me right now we're in like a betrothal time period where in that betrothal time period, it's like the time period when Joseph was going to put Mary away, because you're kind of in a time period where you're not married, but it's almost like a marriage, because betrothal back then was that serious. He would have been allowed to put her away, but then the angel told Mary, I'm talking about Mary and Joseph, sorry, I don't know if I said that, but anyway, that, she didn't do anything wrong. Anyway, so what I'm saying is right now we're like in this time of betrothment where you are to be faithful, waiting for that wedding. And he also, I think he's showing me a lot about marriage, because he's trying to say, it's not so much the marriage that he's like, I finally realized it's not so much the marriage he's trying to show me, like, be subservient to your husband, be under headship, give him respect, be available in all ways, be, make sure that the home, it's your job, like, make sure you're serving nutritious meals, make sure you're taking pride in all the things that you do. And, like, it's hard when you're at home because it doesn't seem the same as work, but, like, outside work. But he's showing me all this because he's saying this is symbolic, and I care this much about the symbol. I care this much about my marriage to you, the bride of Christ, the church. I care so much about this that's why I care about marriage so much. I'm sure there's other reasons, but I was like, Lord, like, if it says we're not even like married in heaven, like, what do you care so much about marriage? Like, he hates divorce, he just hates, I guess, marriage is breaking up. But at the same time, Paul did talk about it being wiser, easier, whatever you want to call it, to be single. And there's a lot of good reasons for that, because at that time, and probably even now, you are going to be able to serve the Lord in a different way, for sure. So, but once you're in a marriage, it is very, very important that you try to make it become the symbol. If you're the man, make it become the symbol that God wants it to be, because he takes it very, very seriously. This symbolism, God is very symbolic. He's very symbolic. He's not just like literal. He uses a lot of pictures and references and pointing from here to there to make a statement. It's not direct. It's not always in your face. It's like Revelation 12. It's very symbolic. So in that, he makes these picture stories almost like to represent something bigger, a spiritual truth that we can't fully understand, which is this union with Christ. Like, it's a spiritual thing that we just don't fully get. But when we see a man and a woman working in their proper way, it's really amazing and beautiful, and we don't fully understand why. And so, like, for men, just being able to provide, being able to lead, being respected, having physical needs met, these are all super important. And for a woman, being loved, it says in the Bible, the husband loves her. It's really interesting because it's like innately put into us for a man to want to see the woman happy. Obviously, there's a ton of dysfunction involved when that's not always the case, but it's like his desire to know, because when she's happy or pleased or satisfied, then he then feels like he's doing his job. So for a woman, she, by setting the mood of the home and the tone and just showing that respect and all the things that, God tells a woman to do, it then helps him to do his job better. That's why she's a helpmeet, because he's the leader of the home, but she is it's like she's guiding it. It's like they say the man is the head, but the woman is the neck. She can turn the head any which way she wants it to go. So it's just this symbiotic relationship that, if you can tell, I was teaching my kids not too long ago, science and symbiotic relationships within the animal species. Anyway, because I've been homeschooling for most of the time. Again, in the beginning, I was trying to do something different than God wanted. So there's the permissive will and the perfect will. I had to pray and fast about homeschooling my kids, and my husband fasted too. This was a long time ago. And at the end, he heard, it's her choice. Either way, she can do it. It's her choice. Like, she can send them to school or homeschool. And I heard, it's like I heard the same thing. I can do both, but one is better. And God has been showing me this lately. We have choice. We do have choice, but there's always a better choice. There's always it's like good, better, best. There's always his best choice for us. And I'm going to read something quickly that's from an article that I was looking on about permissive and perfect will. This is not something I've read from somebody, I haven't been thinking about this topic because of anybody. This is just all me. But then I thought, hey, before I make this video, let me look up, does anybody else talk about this? But for me, it's like I've noticed that, he has a best for my life, and it involves patience. And that's like one of the worst things for me is patience, waiting for that best. He's shown me, I feel like, things in my life that if I just wait, I would get a better result. Like lately, he's been showing me, not lately, but for the last, I would say, like couple of years, that's not lately, but for a couple of years, he's been giving me dreams that I haven't had before of literally the future. He's literally shown me the future of things in my life, and not all things that are like, he's shown me the future of like, the destiny of the world. No, like just everyday things in my life. Some are big and some are small and some are in between. Things that I literally am going to do. And then I do it or it happens. And I'm like, God, why are you even showing me that? Some of the things I'm like, yeah, thank you for showing me that. Okay, for one instance, where I don't think I walked in God's perfect will, but I'm not sure still. But he allows things. Oh, this is another thing I want to talk about, but hold on. So I had a dream that I moved into a new house. I bought a house. I think I've told you guys this before, but we got out of the housing market when I couldn't go back to work after I had twins. I had 4 kids under the age of 4. Anyway, the point is, we had to sell our house that we had for 7 years. It was a long story. My husband got laid off. All these things. This was a long time ago. We never got back into the market because the market went crazy. And so we never could get back in, and we were out for like 5 years. Anyway, so it just created a lot of instability, and I begged God for a purchasing of a house instead of renting a house, because when you own your own house, you're not under the will of somebody else. Like, if they want to sell their house, they can sell it. You have to move. And I have kids that need stability. So anyway, I really got to the end of my rope one day, and I was like, something happened, and I was very, very upset. I won't get into it, but I was just like, I cannot believe this, God. Like, this is like, I have so many things. Are you sure you're really not going to help me with this? Like, I feel like I'm so done in this area. And it's a long story, but trust me, it was a lot of bad things happening at once at one point. And so then it was like the next day, we got a call about someone in our family gifting us a down payment for a house. I know this sounds crazy. It happened. This is God. Like, it happened the day after. And I'm not saying this to boast. Trust me, I'm not. Because even with that down payment, it was the greatest struggle in the world to be able to buy a house. Trust me. It's not like, I don't live in one of those places. Like, a tiny house, it would be almost $1 million. That's right. Almost $1 million for a small, even like a townhouse is close to $1 million. Like, that's how it is where I live. So the point is, it was a start, but I got pressured, I feel like, and I pressured myself to hurry into a house that wasn't, so I don't know if I said this, sorry. I had a dream where I had bought a house. I had a dream. So before I got the down payment, before I got to my breaking point and all this stuff, I had a dream. We walked into a house and I knew we bought a house. Like, it was a dream I had, but it was a bigger house. We did not end up buying a bigger house. We bought a tiny house. It's hard to be in because it's so small with all of us. The point is, I have this strong feeling, or something in me feels like we rushed the decision and we could have gotten something if we had waited. Like, I felt it was rushed. But then this is the other thing. Once the decision was made and we put the offer in and it got accepted and we signed all the papers, I just had this feeling like, no, that wasn't his best. It just wasn't. I just had this feeling. And he blessed it. He blessed it. He's blessed us with our neighbors. He's blessed us with so many things. Like, you can just tell this is a blessed situation, even though I just don't feel like it's his best. Now, it goes back to, he knew ahead of time we would do this, but he was trying, I think, and I could be wrong, I won't know till heaven, he was trying to make me wait and get me to do a certain decision. Now, I felt that in many areas of my life where I have rushed. I'm naturally a rushy type of person. I have rushed, and I do not feel that I have gotten God's best in some areas. And I'm just like, begging God sometimes to close doors for me. I have to beg. I'm like, please close this door, because I know I'm going to make a wrong call here. Like, I can just tell I am not doing well with the waiting. I'm not doing well with having self-control. Please just help me to, please close doors. Please close doors. And he's done that. He really has. Now, when you're walking with God, and that's the thing is, he will work with you. He will work with you. So when I see situations like, I think of like David in the Bible. Like, David was a man after God's own heart. David is in heaven. David did all these amazing things. But, I do think about his marriage situation. Like, he married, I believe it was first Saul's daughter, and then Abigail, and then a ton of other people and concubines and who knows what else. But I think, God, how could you allow that? Like, don't you hate that, or what's up with that? But it obviously is like, back then, mindsets were very different, but it's still really not God's perfect situation, polygamy. So I feel like this is, again, where I just really see where God is kind of like, this was not my perfect will. I did not want that. I really did not. But he clearly permitted it. Now, you could say it was about the law, it was about this, that, but God never changes, and he did not like that. I don't think he did. And when you do things out of God's perfect will for your life, it causes problems in the physical. It starts to cause problems. And look at how it ended. Like, his son was like the one trying to like kill him and everything. So it does cause a lot of problems in the physical, and I'm sure in the spiritual realm as well. But there are some things that he allows. He allows things that aren't his perfect will. And that's just something that I've been thinking about. And like I said, it's related to marriage. And I feel like he really, really wants us to seek his perfect will right now in marriage, but also in all areas of our life. But I think the reason I'm thinking about marriage is because of the great wedding and just the symbolic nature of what's going to happen soon with the end times. And, how he's making this perfect bride, or this chastened bride, in white, without spot or wrinkle, for his son, the Father, for Jesus. And I just feel like this is just a time period where we can really try our best to take some time, and trust me, I'm not great at it, but try our best to take some time and really see God's perfect will in all areas for our life, and say, hey, I don't want to just settle for your permissive will. I want to look, what's the best you got for me on this? And like I said, he will bless, if you're walking with him, he will bless an imperfect situation. Like, he will bless things that weren't his best. Now, I'm not talking about living in some sort of habitual sin or something. I'm talking about just making decisions that just weren't his best, and he will make do. Some, though, this is where I get to his perfect will. Some he won't let happen. And I'll give you an example for myself. Again, with me working. No matter what happens, after I had kids, I could not just either keep a job. I won't say keep a job, because I could stay in the job. There was always something why I had to leave, or something. It just never worked. Like, whether it be the school was constantly calling me and I couldn't even be at work enough, or whatever it was, he would always bring me back. I went to school over the pandemic just from home, just took a little online course. I took a medical administration course online, and I tried to take that course 3 times. Tried to take that course 3 times. And the first time, something happened and I couldn't take it. Then the second time, something else happened. And the second time, God allowed me to start it. Like, I didn't start the course, but like I registered. And I last minute I could not do it. I did not feel peace. So I literally just canceled it and said, I'm not doing it. And I just canceled the whole thing. So I didn't pay or anything. And God gave me a very big blessing from that time when I said, I'm not going to do it. Like, I got a really big blessing from just stepping away from that. But then time passed again, and here I go again a third time. Now, I'm not doing it just for the good of my health. I was doing it because it is hard to live off of one income with 6 people. So I always feel this need, like, I've got to contribute. I've got to make money, that kind of thing. So basically, and it's not like, we're destitute. It's just, it is what it is. I live in a very, very expensive city. So yeah, basically, I'm in the country more, but it doesn't matter. You can live 2 hours out of the city and you're not going to get any cheaper. It's just, well, barely. It is not. Anyway, so the point is, I then, like, a lot of time passed, maybe a year or something. And then again, I'm like, Lord, please, I have to apply for school because I can't, I was a graphic designer, but I'm not doing that again. And that's not going to make the kind of, I can't do that part-time. It's more of a freelance thing. I'm like, I need something that's just going to be a simple part-time job that I can work and make better than minimum wage. I need a good job. And so I just prayed to God and I asked him, and then I felt some peace about it. So I went and I applied at the school and I got in. And I took the course, I ended up getting great grades, and I graduated. It was hard, and it was kind of long, and I did it, though, all from home. But I felt peace about it. Peace in that he allowed it. And then I get a job. I have a dream. I see myself in the job. I literally see myself in the job. I get that job. I literally worked at the place where I saw in the dream. I told you, I keep having these dreams of my actual life. And I'm not just trying to focus on me, but this is just, I'm hoping this might help somebody or encourage, bless, make you feel relatable or whatever. So I get this job, and it not only did it go horribly, but it was almost, something happened that was almost illegal to the point where I had to leave. It was so bad. It was like crime level bad. So I got a job as I was a medical administrator. So anyway, the point is, I was like, this is it. I can't even go to this place. This something so bad happened. So I'm just like, God, are you even kidding me? And I felt like God was just like, I literally told you, you're not going to do this. You literally did an Israelite move, the 40 years walking in a circle, because he has a perfect will. And his perfect will, I felt like and it wasn't about the homeschooling. It was just me being home. Whatever that is for him, I think he really, really, really knows or wanted me to live out a very, he really, really wanted to train me in being a very subservient, not just subservient, that might not be the word, but to be the wife, how they say you're supposed to be, all these. And I don't think he's doing it for my husband. Honestly, I do not. I mean, yeah, it helps him a lot, but it's not for that. And so anyway, I couldn't work. So what I'm saying is, I think his perfect will, I think this was more of a forceful will, as in he's like, this one, I'm not going to let slide. Yeah, you can take the course and waste your time and money. Yeah, you can go get a job and have a really freaky experience and come back home, I guess, because you tried it 3 times. I felt like God was just like, look, you know what it's like? It's like when Israel asked for a king. And I think that's going to be in the little insert that I read. I'm going to read something for you guys. When Israel asked for a king, and finally he's like, fine. He gives in too. And God, that's, when we meet him, it's going to be so I don't know. It just feels like we just put him in this place where he's has no emotions or something, but he is flexible, but at the same time, he's not too. He's certain things, it's just this is just a no-go. Some things are just no. And then other things are, I'd prefer you not to. You're making a bad choice. And then other things are go right ahead. You've asked and really. So the third time I went to school, he was just yes, you can go. That's why I had peace about it. I didn't have peace in the right way, but I had I didn't have the feeling like the other 2 times where I was like, you cannot do this. Like, just do not do this. Now, I switched which course I took. So I think the previous course would have been a lot worse that he really didn't like. And I think this one was at least acceptable, but it was still pointless. So I can't be sure, but that's the vibe I got from that whole experience. Like, I could still find a job. Could still try or whatever. But instead of that, I felt God said, I want you to throw yourself and literally just totally immerse yourself in motherhood, womanhood, wife duties, all this stuff, like more than you ever have. I really feel strongly like he is like, I want you to learn how to be a bride, like full out, best you can, best you've ever been. And I'm telling you, I'm the best I've ever been. Like, I'm telling you right now. Yeah, like in that area, I mean, where I am thinking of all the little things about, there's this book the community post I put last is about a woman. And like I said, she talks about just caring for her home and stuff like that. And then there's a book, that she talks about, and it's called the caring for and feeding of husbands. The caring for and feeding of husbands. It's like he's a pet. It's like, how do I take care and feed my husband? But honestly, I get it. Like, it's just, I don't know why that's just so funny to me. It's a real thing, like to literally care for and just create a tone and a vibe in your home, and this whole thing, like the woman can just do so much. I'm not trying to say, I'm just talking about women, because I know men listen to me too. I'm just talking about from my point of view, but you can really make it a nice place and a nice sanctuary for your kids and your spouse to come home to. Now, a husband is, I'm sure there's men who stay at home and other things like that, and I don't fully understand, and how to that opposite role and stuff, like where some men feel like that or whatever. I'm just talking about like this generic kind of way, because so for men, it really does, you know what, let me say something here. Let me interject something. I see a lot of YouTube wives bring their husbands home. They're bringing their husbands home. Like, I watch a lot of homesteading channels or like just homemaking channels and things like that, like mom vlogs and family vlogs. I don't watch a lot, but I watch a few channels like that. And a lot of the wives bring their husbands home. I'm making quotations with my fingers, because they work, like they do their YouTube channel to the point where the husband doesn't have to work anymore. Something about that never sat right with me. And the wives, you can tell, like, are like definitely more of the, I won't say leaders of the home, but they're like the dominant personality. You can see these men that I've seen, usually they have a very, very soft personality. I could tell you right now, although my husband is lazy in many ways sometimes, as am I sometimes, but he likes to just chill. He's a chill type of person. He would not like that, okay? Like, I think he doesn't mind not working, but the one thing, which is a good thing, is I could never really push my husband around. Like, although, in some ways, all women want to. It's part of the curse, because the curse is your desire will be after your husband and he will lord over you or something like that. But it's just, I couldn't. He wouldn't allow it. Some men, though, will. Like, they're this nice and just gentle and whatever you want to call it. But like my father-in-law, for instance, he's hardcore. Like, he would never be bossed around by anybody. So then my husband, he's like a lesser version of that. He's more nice and calmer, and he's a Christian and stuff like that. So he's less like that, but that background, and I see it in my son. I see it in my son coming out too. As he gets older, I can't like boss. I have to step back. Like, as a mother, you do kind of boss him around like a little bit. You're like, hey, do this or that. But I see he's becoming a man. He's just a kid, but he's becoming a man. And I'm like, whoa, like, you stood up for yourself there. Like, you really were like, hey, back off, woman, kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just going off track here. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't love the vibe of bringing your husband home, that kind of thing. Like, I hope this is not really offending someone. If you're at home and you've lost your job and that's the thing, and blah, blah, I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about going out of your way to be the breadwinner as the woman. I think God is really painting a picture for me here. And he's really showing me how important it is to serve on both ends. Just be this servant. Just put yourself second. And you're not doing it to get a pat on the head from the spouse and say, good job, like you served me, or you did this, or you did that. No, it's from God. He is doing something. All I can say is he's doing something in me, and he kiboshed and cut off certain attempts that I had to do certain things, and this was not his, where he's letting me, what's the word, where he's permitting, I guess, for me to do certain things. This was like, no, this certain thing I don't want you to do. Which is work outside the house. And again, I'm not putting down people who do that. I'm saying this is something that for me, it was like a for sure. So in all of that, I just wanted to say there is, I believe, God's perfect and permissive will. And if there's a possibility for you to hold out for that perfect will in the different areas and ask him, and you may be thinking, well, how do I know what it is? I mean, you will kind of know. You get a peace about things. It all depends too if you're really listening to the Holy Spirit. But yeah, that's the thing. But he will bless it. If it wasn't, say you rushed into a decision, he will either reverse it. He reverses things. That's another thing. He reverses things. He will reverse it. It might cause turmoil in your life though, because you've just not listened to God. So he'll reverse it, or like he'll backtrack you out of it, or he'll quickly get you out of it. Or it might be a situation where you can never get out of it. It might be you made a choice, you can't get out of it, but then he'll have to bless it. That's like marriage or having kids or something like that. If you did things that you can't reverse clearly, then he will do that. But say you took a job, or say you took a job you shouldn't, or say you went to school and you feel you shouldn't, he can unravel that and undo that. And he will, because he's like, this wasn't the right way. But then there's other decisions that you make that he can't undo. And I don't know if he allows you to, marry wrong person, or like if you're really seeking him, but I think so. I think he can allow you to do most any decision, or you will do them if you're not seeking God. If you are seeking God, I think the Holy Spirit for big decisions will kind of like tap you on the shoulder. Now, I've told you guys that I got into end times because my kids had a immunization injury. I don't know if you all know, but they had an immunization injury. They lost all their speech. They went into moderate to severe autism, and that's a whole thing in itself. But that got me on this road in 2018 to seek out what's going on. God told me it's about end times. This is it. End times is linked up with that thing that those kids got that made them sick. And then I started preaching about that for several years. So clearly God spoke to me, and then 2020 hit. So boom, he definitely spoke to me. That being said, is that he allowed that. So I'm like, there's other things where he knows it wasn't a good choice for your life, but he'll allow it to bring forth his glory, like the man who was born blind, and God, the people were like, the disciples said to Jesus, why was he blind? Was his parents' sin or him? And he said, no, it was to show the glory of God. Now he can see. There's a miracle. So different things happen for different reasons. So like I said, there's the perfect will of God, the permissive will of God, and then he allows things for his own perfect will to bring things about. There's so many things there, but I think it's just something he's laid on my heart lately, where I'm just really thinking on it, and I'm just really seeing that if you can get into that perfect will where you're just in that sweet spot, one, you're gonna have a huge peace, and I feel it, like when I'm in it, and in some ways I'm in it because this is where he wants me to be, is in a house. I almost never see people, very rarely, and just in a way that just kind of goes against what it seems like my personality, and just really subservient. And he just keeps making me more and more lower, less of me, and more of him. And he will exalt you in due time if you do that or whatever. So that being said, is if you can get into that sweet spot in that place, not only will you find immense peace, but what will blossom out of that will be so amazing. Now, I just don't think we have a ton of time, but I think we have enough that every day is another day where you can try to get into that perfect will of God. But let me put on the screen and read a little bit of that article that I said I saw on this, and then I'll get into my second topic. So it says here, the perfect will of God is God's divine plan for your life. This is what he has divinely arranged: the kind of man or woman to marry, career, ministry, and so on. The permissive will of God is what he permits. A point to note that the fact that he permits something does not mean it is his will. For instance, if God wants a person to get married at the age of 30, he knows the exact reason why. If the person is obedient and waits for God's timing, he will receive all the blessings God has for him. Suppose when the person reaches the age of 25, he finds a woman and decides to marry her. It will not be God's perfect will. If the person continues to pray about it over and over, God will give him a go-ahead, but it will be God's permissive will. He will still bless them, but they will not enjoy the full blessings that come with his perfect will. The Holy Spirit is a gentleman, and he will not force anyone against his or her will. The Most High wanted to be the king over the Israelites, but the people saw how other nations had kings and desired a king for themselves. It was not God's will for the people to have another king because God was already the king, but the people kept asking for a king. So the Most High said, "No problem," and gave them a king, King Saul. That was God's permissive will, not his perfect will. God did bless them, but they did not receive the full blessing of God. When God was their king, they had peace. But after they received their king, burdens after burdens, wars after wars, God wants to give you the best, not his second best. A life operating under the perfect will of God will be colorful. To get To get the perfect will of God, you need to be very patient. The elders have a saying, only the patient dog eats the fattest bone. Now, I'm not saying all this so that you live in regret, because that can be a thing. You could be like, oh, why did I do this? I can't unravel it. I don't know how to unravel it. Now, many things can be unraveled. I've been in that situation, and God has unraveled me out of things that I didn't know how to get myself out of, and he's gotten me out of them. Now, it gets messy. But I do think patience is a big one, and that's that's the hard thing. It's like one of my hardest things. But for some people, they're naturally patient. So, but just because you're patient, that doesn't mean you'll be in God's perfect will. Because I know people who just don't like to do anything. They just literally, they don't pursue things. It's not that they're lazy. They're just complacent. They're afraid to step out and stuff like that. It's their natural personality. It won't make things go well for you. It's when you combine patience, whether you're an impatient person or a patient person, you combine patience with seeking God's will. Together, that makes good things. Just being a patient, laid back, complacent person isn't the answer. And also just seeking God's will and then jumping ahead into everything, that doesn't work either. So, yeah, I'm not saying this to put you in a place of regret. I'm saying this because it can be a fresh start today to start walking in his will. And trust me, even if you stepped out and you're in situations that doesn't seem exactly right or something seems off and, whatever, that's where you have to trust God and put faith. And he will work with you in that spot. I think about Joseph in the pit, or in the jail, I should say. I just watched that show with my kids, the movie, The King of Dreams. Is it King of Dreams? I think it was that one. Yeah, King of Dreams. And he was in jail. And there's this one scene where there's like a little plant growing out of the crack of the jail cell in the floor. And he is so mad, and he's like, things just keep happening bad. Like, I can't remember all the details, but basically in the jail, it does not go well for him. And then he sees this little plant and he starts watering it. And he starts caring for it, and it turns into this beautiful tree. And the song that they sing with that scene is, "You know better than I." They just keep saying that God knows better than he does. And because he was trying to say, why God, why? I know in the Bible it doesn't say that Joseph said anything like that, but we can't know for sure. And most people would be like, this doesn't make a lot of sense here. What happened to my dream? And his dream did come true, obviously, but there was a lot of symbolism in his dream. It wasn't literal. And again, with my dreams, like I said, I keep seeing things, but they've pretty much stopped. Like, I'm at the point where I'm very close to thinking it's going to be the rapture and the tribulation, because there's only one other thing that could happen that I won't get into yet, that could happen that might not be the full fruition. I have to see. But basically what I'm trying to say is the dreams don't always come out exactly how they looked, but they're very close. But it is a snapshot of the future, something I could never guess. And Joseph had a dream of the future, and he could never imagine how that would have played out. But in the jail cell, what I'm trying to say is he was nurturing that tree. And that was just a cartoon movie, but he was nurturing the tree, and he was while he was in the jail, he decided he's going to make the best of it. He's going to make the best of it. He's going to listen to God. He's going to spend that time in that season of confusion, in that season of what feels like not God's perfect will, what feels like this wasn't the dream you showed me. And he was going to take that time and make the best of it. And if you're in a situation, instead of regret, if you're in a situation where you're like, this doesn't feel like this was your perfect will. It feels like I jumped in decisions, I ran forward, and now I'm in a spot and I don't know how to get myself out of it. All you can do is make the best of it. And again, with marriage, I think he's really showing me it's not about this earthly marriage. I am trying to teach you something. Marriage really, really is a symbol of something. It's a real big symbol. It's symbolic of the great wedding that's going to happen. It's symbolic of a chaste bride. It's symbolic of servanthood, of putting yourself lower to be raised up later. Basically, God showed me that what he's trying to teach me is not for the benefit of my husband. He's not for the benefit of just my husband or me or whatever, or the family. Yes, it benefits. It's like an automatic benefit. But that's not the core benefit. The core benefit to what he's been showing me is when you're in my perfect will, it doesn't mean it's always easy, but you will have the supernatural peace, and there will be supernatural blessings that you don't even know. You can't even know what I'm planning and providing and what's going to come next. And then it's not about this life. He always tells me, he reiterates in my heart, think on heavenly things, not on things in this world. He's like, you may think this is the end all and be all. White picket fence, 2 kids and a dog, and a Costco card. I don't know, and a house. So, but no, he's saying, no. That is not the point. You're missing the point. That is not the point. That is an offshoot when God blesses you with those things and you're in, his will and stuff like that. But that is not the point. That is not the point. The point is to refine yourself so that it's for the next life. This all is for the next life. All of this. All of it is lessons. All of it is training. All of it is preparation for the next reward. And so, yeah, he wanted to show me how much he values marriage and why he has a problem with divorce, and why he has the system the way it is. But again, his permissive will allowed things that you can see happening with Abraham, throughout many patriarchs in their lives, when he could have clearly said, no, you can't do this. If you do this, you're out. But he didn't. He gave permissive will, like when the Israelites allowed, that second king, when they asked for the king, when they asked for the king and things like that. But in your own life, all I can say is for this topic, I'll end it here, but for this topic, I just truly believe he is trying to call us all right now into a place where, one, we are walking in his perfect will to the best of our ability, not his permissive will, that in every area we don't try to find the loophole. We don't try to press it to the very edge and say, well, if I can, you're permitting me to do this since you're we're always going to do that. Humans, if they can, they're going to, not always, like when you love the Lord, when you love someone, you're going to do the right thing. But your flesh will keep trying to say, how far can I push this? Like, come on, God, this is not going to bring me to hell, right? Like, this is not that bad. So, I can just do this. And walking in his permissive will, it's just going to keep leading to mediocrity, and it could lead to something worse. Like one thing could lead to the next thing. But again, this is not to scare you. It's not to make you live in regret. It's to say right now you could try to start over and try to see how, even if you're not in that perfect situation, you're like, oh man, I made so many mistakes. I screwed up. I ruined my life. Look at me now. No, you can start over today, and you can say, like Joseph, who was in the jail, I'm going to water that tree. I'm going to water that tree. I'm going to care about the place I'm in now. You might be in a dinky-rinky apartment, a tiny little thing. You might be an old house or something. He's saying, take care of that place now. Like he's shown me, take care of what you have now. You don't like those clothes. You don't like that car. You don't like that house. Take care of it so I can give you something better. Why am I going to give you something more when you don't even take care of the little things you have? And it's not to say I don't take care of my health stuff, but he showed me, take joy and happiness and be blessed by the little you have. Really just care for it, tend to it. Joseph in that little movie, he was caring about a little tree. He was loving that tree. And then God gave him all of Egypt to care for. You know what I mean? And there's a verse that says, I'm going to have to look that up. Oh, it's Luke 16:10. He who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much. And he who is unjust in what is least is unjust also in much. So that to be said is, wherever you are, this is when you can really just show your gratitude to God. So yeah, that was just something that's been on my heart lately, and he's just been walking me through that. And yeah, I guess I'll end it at that for that part. The second thing I wanted to talk about was just about people's hearts, and it kind of relates to what I was talking about previously, but there's been a lot of big topics that I'm researching lately and have been brought to my attention, and just things that I'm trying to figure out, like legally, and I don't know if I should use the word legally, but like when it comes to God and law and what he really cares about. I don't know how to word it, but basically I've really been trying to seek what can really make or break you when it comes to heaven, hell, salvation, and these kind of things. There's been some things there that I'm really working through and looking into. And one of my videos is going to kind of be about that, and it's just the heart. And that's just something I just want to talk about. Like when one big topic that I know came on YouTube was, with eternal security and stuff like that. That was like a really bone of contention on YouTube. It's something I never even heard of before, but I've been Christian for so long and devout, and I never even heard of it. But yeah, I had people telling me I wasn't even saved because I didn't even know what it was. I wasn't even saved because I didn't even know what it was. I was like, this is absolute madness. And if you put anything like that in the comments, or you start going off on a rant or whatever, please just please don't. So what I'll say is this. When I went to God about it, I studied, I searched and all that stuff. The one thing he told me how I should handle it on my channel personally, he says, just keep saying, God will not be mocked. God will not be mocked. A man will reap what he sows. God will not be mocked. And the reason God will not be mocked was so important was he searches through bone and marrow, right to the heart. It pierces. His word is a double-edged sword. He will know what is in there. He knows your heart. So I don't know what game people are playing. People lie to themselves. People lie to God. They love to just fool things. I've never been that person. Either I'm in or I'm out. That's not a game I've ever cared to play because it's so pointless and futile. But I know plenty of people, they just are playing some sort of game. I don't know, pretend Christian or whatever it is. I'm not here to spend all my time, whatever time that God has given me to deal with that. So for me, now different people are called to different ministries and different things that they have to discuss and whatever. But when I first came on YouTube, the big fight was, or not fight, but like all in my comment section, it would be post-tribbers, or like a few really nasty ones who would come in and like be really mean and just torment me and trollish and all that stuff. And so that was when I first got on YouTube. So that was the big fight then. And I was like, oh, this is a big thing. Like, what is this? Like, it really takes you back, because when I first got in, everybody's more childlike and gullible, and they argue back and forth, and you'll be like giving people these times a day. And then it got to the point where I was like, wait, I'm not giving you any of my time anymore. Like, this is going nowhere. It's a circle, and I don't think your heart's very good. You start to see people's heart condition. You start to see, because it said, without love, you are a clanging cymbal. You are nothing. You're pointless. Without love, all of this is pointless. And I wasn't seeing the fruits of the Spirit. I wasn't seeing love. So I was like, okay, that topic's over. And then the next topic came in. I'd be like, hey, the sky is blue. And then someone would bring up this topic of, being sealed unto the day of redemption. Well, they say until the day of redemption, but the Bible says unto. But they'll say that, right? And then I'm like, but I'm talking about the sky is blue. And then they'll start a whole thing. And opposite too, you have people on the opposite who are very legalistic, and they'll go into this long drawn out thing or whatever. And I'm saying you can see someone's heart. And that's what God was really showing me recently, is that with all of these big topics, he's gonna judge your heart. Say, there's like really important topics with regards to, like, I'm even talking about marriage in my previous part here, just different beliefs on everything, head coverings, divorce, women speaking in the church, pants, women wearing pants. I'm talking about a lot of women issues, but that's just something that, I was in a Brethren church. When I became a Christian, I spent 10 years in a Brethren church. So that's like a big deal, even just wearing pants. But, there's a lot of like contention with obviously all the different end times theories and doctrines and thoughts, and there's so much contention on everything. But the main thing I see God is saying is, I'm seeing people's hearts. And even when he said David is a man after God's own heart. But then I was like, what's up with him having so many wives? And that's interesting that he was allowed to have that kind of polygamy, but he was still called a man after God's own heart. And one thing about David is he wanted to build that temple. I mean, that was a big thing. I've heard people say, like, why he really was a man after God's own heart. He wanted heavenly things, as on earth as it is in heaven. He wanted to do these kind of things that the Lord wanted. Now, again, with the permissive will, people making mistakes, but God is going to see into your heart. So a lot of the decisions I've made that were wrong, he saw me sorry, repentant. He saw a lot of the reasons I made mistakes were due to sometimes things I didn't know any better. Sometimes I did know better, but I was confused, scared. Now, I'm not saying fear and all this stuff is a reason to make all these bad decisions. I'm just saying he's going to know if you really deep down have ulterior motives to why you want to believe something, do something, act a way, make a decision. Like, just really, the heart condition is so important. Like, if you're in a situation where, you're feeling the need to say, treat a spouse a certain way. I'm going back to marriage just because we were talking about that, or whatever, you're in the middle of separating or whatever it might be, anything. Why? It's the why is so important. You got to start searching, because it will be like, you can, like, when I've tried to make decisions that God didn't want, and I'm like, God, this makes the most sense. Like, you come on, I have all the right, and I have all the reason to do this decision. I can make this decision, Lord, because I have the right to. Look at what has happened to me. Look at why I'm doing it. You can see in the logic realm, I deserve to do this. And God will say, you may think you deserve all that and whatever, but I'm telling you to do this other thing. Your ways are not my ways, and you need to do this other thing. And I'll be like, but God, come on. Look at what I've been through. Look at why I can do this or that. And then God will say, yeah, but this is what's important to me. This thing on earth, these things that you're doing are temporary. This is important to me, and you don't get it. And so in everything, I think the only thing I'm saying with my second topic is God searches the heart. Like I said, between bone and marrow, it gets right to the core of it. And with all these issues and all these back and forth and all these debates and things like that, he will not be mocked. He knows what's going on inside. So just keep working on that. Keep getting to the root of things. Keep trying to see, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I speaking to this person this way? Why am I acting this way? Why am I, pouring all my attention into this thing? Why do I want this thing so bad? Why am I envious of that? Why am I passionate for this when God told me to be passionate for things of him? Why am I so into that? Why is this so hard to give up? This thing, this sin, this person, this job, this idea, this whatever. Why do I desire that? Like, all the things that you do in your life and why you do them or why you don't do them. Why don't I do anything? Why do I contemplate things? Why am I not stepping? Am I afraid? What am I afraid of? Like, all the things that you do and you pursue and your passion, where your treasure is, your heart will be also. Like, all the things. Just start seeking and asking God why you're doing those things, or how those things can be transformed into something that is more looking like him and his son and Jesus, and like how he wants your life to turn out, and start walking the straight and narrow path that he has for you, and instead of the path that you just decided you're going to go on. So I'm not saying this to be all judgy and like telling you what to do. I'm saying it out of love, speaking truth in love. I really am. There's really no reason. I have no reason to be, telling people what to do in an angry way. I don't feel that way. I just don't feel that way. I just really don't. So I just know I've been looking at all these things. God's been walking me through all these things, and this is kind of like the platform He's asked me to come on. And I felt like this kind of like channel is like the upper room. You know, I know God wants me to keep the name as it is, Speaking Truth in Love, but I feel like it's the upper room because it's kind of like the quieter place where you speak to closer friends who know what you're talking about, because I felt like I wanted to make a channel that's a bit more seeker friendly. I know that word is like whatever, but like more just like general, where I could be like, hey, check this out, just for end time's sake, and to just kind of help people just, you know, just like the very, not baby Christians, but lukewarm baby, whatever, like just getting into understanding, hey, what's going on in the world, that kind of thing. And this is like the upper room, where it's just like the closer people in my inner circle, intimacy circle. And I just feel like, yeah, that's what's happening here, where I can just kind of pour into people. Now, I truly believe those who have ears, let them hear and will hear, and those who don't, won't. And that's just fine. It's a hard thing for me. I want everybody to understand everything. It's kind of like my personality, but God has shown me just say things that, you know, I lead you to say, and feed the sheep, and then that's all you can do. You can plant a seed, water seeds and stuff like that, but you can't, I make them grow. I, you know, do the final work. So I guess that's that. I think the first topic flowed into the second, and I just hope you guys don't take it as, you know, you want to, it makes you feel bad or makes you feel guilty or upset or anything. It's really to make you say, hey, this is a fresh start. I'm going to value where I'm at right now, value it. I'm going to be thankful for it. Whatever your situation is right now, I'm going to be grateful. I'm going to walk in it in the best of my ability. If I make mistakes, I'm going to say sorry, get back up, try again. I'm going to ask God's opinion instead of making my opinion being the old opinion, you know, only opinion, sorry. There's another verse that I thought of where it says, when you were young, you went wherever you wanted to go. But when you were old, you were led around. I'm going to put the verse on the screen because I don't remember what it is. But basically, it's kind of interesting because it's like, people think it means, oh yeah, when you're old, you know, you get pushed around in a wheelchair. But I think it's like, it could be a little bit deeper, where it's like, when you're young in the faith, yeah, He lets you do a lot of things that maybe you didn't need to be doing. He give you a lot of leeway. But as you get older and more mature, there should be maturity. There should be growth. And you should start to be asking God His opinion and looking to see what He wants for you, because it's also just for the benefit of you. I mean, when you're in His will, His perfect will, as opposed to keep settling for what's not as best, like the best, it's not as good. I mean, even if you did that, I mean, obviously heaven's amazing, but it's just obviously not as good. Now, like I said, all the patriarchs of the Bible really did settle in areas. They really did have times, and I don't think we should base our life off the settling, but we know they all really did sometimes. But they also definitely made big, huge steps and leaps, more than most, of faith, where they did God's will when it didn't make any sense. So, you know, I'm not saying you're not going to make mistakes, because I surely, every day, I'm telling you right now, I ask God to close doors all the time, because I got the looky-loo eyes. I'm looking around. I'm like, hey, I always like to try things. I'm adventurous. I just like to try things. And, you know, I'm always like, close the door, please, Lord, please close the door if it's not for me, because, you know, I want to go and try things. And He's like, He'll close doors. He will. He really does. Now, sometimes He's like, you can do it. You can make that choice yourself. This one you can do. There's plenty of ones where He's just like, you can say no. You can say no. And I'm not talking about sin. I'm just talking about things that He just doesn't need you to, you know, you're just not walking His perfect will. And then other things He does help, you know, when I'm begging and I'm like, please, I really want to do this thing, but I don't feel like you want me to do this thing. Please don't let me do this thing. So He helps, but He likes maturity. He really does. He really does like maturity. So, and that's kind of the verse of my channel. Speaking truth in love may grow up into all things, which is the head, even Christ. So I guess I'll leave it at that. I hope this blessed you. We kind of circled around the same forest many, many times, because I only had a copyright free, which I will put in the description box for YouTube. This is a copyright free video on Community Commons, copyright free. So I'm not actually walking, in case people wanted to know that. I got a copyright free video because I don't have the time to like talk and walk in that way. I just take time and in my house when I get a chance and sneak away and record a video. So anyway, hopefully YouTube will keep this up because it is allowed. So thank you guys for watching. I hope this blessed you. It was just something to be like a little chit chat, pass the time, and learn and grow along the way. So yep, I guess that's it. And I'll start working on my next stuff. And hopefully we will be raptured soon and I will see you in the air. But if not, then I'll catch you in the next one. So until next time, God bless and shalom.